Hey, sixth grade. I hope you guys are doing okay. Well, sixth grade, I hope that you guys remember where we left off. Now, we were working on something called 1 point perspective. Now, what is that? Well, it's a technique that's been used for centuries. And this technique that I speak of, it's made up of three key components. You need to understand these three things in order to succeed at 1 point perspective, to create an illusion of depth in your drawing using 1 point perspective, I should say, guys. So let's get started. So, number one, you're going to need a horizon line. Now, what's a horizon line? Horizon line is a line that is, for the most part, well, it's always going to be horizontal. That's where actually the term comes from, as in horizon, horizontal, as in left to right. So we need a horizon line. That's number one. We need a horizon line. And number two, we need a vanishing point. That's just a small dot, um, small mark, something that looks like a dot at the center. For the most part, it's at the center of the horizon line. Okay, so number two, as I said, is the vanishing point. And number three, guys, they're called converging lines or convergence lines. And converging just means that these lines come together. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, again, watch this. One, the horizon line. And if you'd like, you can get in the habit of placing a little, maybe some hills and the sun at the upper right. And of course, we know that if this is the sky, then this is the ground. S for sky, G for ground. And number two is our vanishing point. And number three, guys, is the converging lines. Now, ideally, I would like for you to have a ruler handy. But if you don't, we'll get by with some sort of straight edge. Maybe something the likes of a box, or in this case here, this box of crayons, or a notebook. We'll make do with what we have, guys. So let's get started. So number one, horizon line. That line, or the horizon, the horizon, guys, is that point in time and space where it appears as though the sky merges with the ground. So I'm going to start with a rectangle, guys. And then how about a triangle? And maybe something a little more complex. By that I mean maybe something the likes of an octagon. Now, what am I doing here, guys? Now, again, one, horizon line, H for horizon. Two, vanishing point, VP for vanishing point. And three, well, let's get started, are the converging lines, guys. These lines that should be drawn, from the corners. And when I say relevant corner, guys, I mean, for example, I'm not going to be able to see through this rectangular prism, so I don't go on ahead and draw a line from that corner. I mean, you could, technically, but again, you don't want to clutter the drawing. You don't want a lot of lines on the drawing, because something like this can get pretty messy, guys. So let me go back to my relevant corners. And then, guys, this is very important, guys. So when I start to create my, in this case, rectangular prism, I need to produce a line parallel to this part of the square. And again, it has to be parallel. Parallel. Parallel, of course, means what, guys? That these lines never intersect. They never touch. They never intersect in time and space. And I want to give a shout out to Alexander Solis and Julian Montes, Michelle Soto, and a few others. You guys were doing such a great job with your 1 point perspective. You guys are so awesome. I just want to say that A, I miss you guys, and B, Julian Montes and Alexander Solis, Michelle Soto, and a few, Fernando Rosado. Goodness gracious, you guys were advancing. You guys were so advanced when it came to this 1 point perspective. So don't forget what you've learned. Now let's go back. to what I was saying earlier in terms of the parallel lines. Now, what I want to do, of course, is make this look three-dimensional. Of course, Mr. Rules, what does that mean? Of course, three-dimensional means three measurements. A measurement is a dimension, and in this case, we have width, W for width. We have height, H for height, and of course, we have depth or length. I was taught to use the term depth, but you can also use the term length, okay? So let me go back to my triangle, which I now, guys, want to make look like a triangular prism. So what do? I create parallel lines. This line is parallel to that part of the triangle. This line is parallel to that part of the triangle. And what we end up with is something that looks three-dimensional. So no longer a triangle, but rather now it's a triangular prism. No longer a rectangle, or I'm sorry, I should say no longer is it a square, but rather now a cube or rectangular prism if I were to lengthen it. Now let's go back to this octagon, this 8-sided shape. No worries, guys. Remember, parallel, a line that is parallel to this part of the octagon. Okay? And then this line, of course, is horizontal, parallel to that part of the octagon. And these converging lines, guys, these converging lines means they come together at the vanishing point. And why do you think this is called the vanishing point, guys? Because it seems to vanish in time and space. Something so large here, but then as you can see, it seems to decrease in time and space. But of course, we know that this is an illusion. And you guys are so good at your drawings that you can create an illusion of depth in your work using one-point perspective. And some of you, for example, Caesar and Jorge, you were working on your names. So let's take Caesar's initials, and we started off with block letters that look like they're made up of blocks. Okay, and then Cesar Vasquez, Jorge Peñalosa. Your initials, guys. Now, what do? Now, again, if you have a ruler, that's fine. If not, well, then we'll just practice. And I'm drawing a line from my vanishing point or my object to the vanishing point. Now, this can get pretty complex, guys. And why? Well, because this is a technique that has been used for centuries. And men like Filippo Brunelleschi, Leonardo da Vinci, these were men that had a great understanding of one-point perspective. Why? Well, because they studied one-point perspective. This is something they had to learn while they were studying to be artists. And again, guys, so what am I doing? I'm just creating a series of parallel lines. This part of the P, look. Now, the horizontal part of the P. And this is what we have. And don't get fooled by these cylinders, or in this case, a circle that we're going to make look like a cylinder. Don't get confused by that. But I know that it's going to get cluttered, and I know it's going to get a little messy. Now, as I was saying, oh my gosh. So Julian and Alexander Solis, they were creating what, again, is basically the inside of a room, which can be pretty complex. So I'll go back to what I'll go back to the image that I actually included on the presentation I uploaded on Google Slides. So as you can see here, this is a drawing of the image. I added a few more details like the chimney and the door here, but in short, it's in essence the street and the trees, but it's the same thing. And don't be fooled by this. I know it can get cluttered, it can seem complex, but at the end of the day, it's really just this. Believe it or not, it's just this. So I'll come back to this. Let me talk about what Julian and what Alexander were working on. So I'll start. So here I have two components. I have my horizon line, H, and I have my VP for vanishing point. So what I then suggested was, well, guys, if you're going to create something that looks like a room, Well, let's start with one of the walls. And in this case, of course, it's just going to be a rectangle. Okay? And then we go from our vanishing point, we draw lines outward. And be careful, guys, because this is going to get a little messy. It's going to get a little cluttered, okay? But no worries. You guys are going to be just fine. So now what's happening, guys? So we have a rectangle here, okay? And we have what appears to be an X. Now, this is the basics, believe it or not. So once I have an idea of where I'm going to go and what I'm going to keep, I can then start to say, okay, Mr. Rose, I kind of understand. So it's basically an X within a square. Yes, it is. So then this becomes the floor. This is one wall. This is the ceiling. And this is another wall. Now, I'll start to clean it up a little bit so that you understand where I'm going with this. So by clean up, I mean I'm going to erase the lines within the rectangle because I want this to look more like a wall. Okay? So if you have a ruler handy, this is where the ruler truly comes in. So, let's say, for instance, this is one of the walls, or should I say the floor, I'm sorry. Okay, here is a wall. And if you have a ruler handy, wonderful. And if not, we'll get by. We'll manage, right, guys? But don't forget, rulers, some rulers have 3 straight edges, and some rulers have 4. Now, as you can see, this ruler is a little large, but it's one of the reasons I like it. But in short, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 straight edges, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, why do I mention that? Because Alexander and Julian, they're very precise. They really try their best to produce a good drawing for me. And if you're going to go the extra step, well, then make sure you make straight lines. And for example, if we want a really nice vertical line, we can line up one edge of our rulers with the edge of the paper. And that'll give us a really nice line there. And again here, we line up this side of the ruler with that side of the paper, which will give us a really nice crisp line. And again, down here, line them up. Okay, so what's happening here, guys? Well, number one, what's happening is that I just have one wall that looks complete, or rather this part of the wall. And let me make a couple corrections here, and let me clean up. And by corrections, I mean, let me clean up. And then here, my vanishing point, let me continue onward here. Now, what did I say earlier, guys? So here is the floor. Now, how do I know that? Well, because here is one wall. And let's make this, how about this? You can have a window here, or you can have a television here, whatever you choose to do. But I'll do both. Well, for now, window here and then the TV. But here, let's go back to this wall. And I want to put maybe a nice size window here. Maybe a nice size window here so we get a lot of air, a lot of light rather. Okay. And maybe it's a paneled window, or a window that has maybe one large one at the center and then 2 smaller ones here. And then you can, for example, you can put some curtains over here. And it helps us to further understand, like, oh, I see, Mr. Ruiz. So this is, these are the curtains. These are the curtains. And over here, Mr. Ruiz, over here, this is the window. Yes. And if you can also put things outside of the window, but for now, let's just leave it at that. And what did I say earlier, guys? I said, well, Alexander and Julian were working on some really complex stuff. So let's go on ahead and let me go back to my vanishing point, because this is important if you want to make it look precise. So let me go back up here, vanishing point, guys. Don't forget my horizon line is still there, even though I erased it. That's gonna be important. That's still important, rather, even though we may not see it. So vanishing point, and let me put some lights up here. So very light for now. Okay, and I could literally measure this if I so chose to, and for the sake of argument, it's at about 1 inch from here to there, and from here now, and then from here to there. So let me just go back, and you'll see what I'm doing, guys, in just a matter. Remember my 4 straight edges. So some of you already know what I'm doing, some of you may not. So what am I doing, guys? I'm putting the lights up here. Okay, so here we have our light. It's on the ceiling, of course. That's why it looks a little distorted, or like, wait a minute, that's a light? Yes, guys, so there's our light. Now, over on this side of the room, whatever it can be, if it can be, whatever the case might be, living room, kitchen, but let's say that it's a living room, because I did mention television. But nonetheless, let me go on ahead over here, and let me put in the beginning of a window. And remember, I'm lining up my edges. But again, if you don't have a ruler, you can use a straight edge of some sort, and we'll get by with that, guys. We're gonna get by. We're gonna whatever it is that we have at our disposal, we're gonna use it so that we come up with a pretty good drawing. So I'm gonna start with one side of the window and another side of the window. Now, what do I have? Well, I just have two lines here. Now let me close this off. I'm going to stop there. Why? Because remember, guys, what makes something look three-dimensional, it's not the horizontal lines, guys. It's not the vertical lines, guys. What makes something look three-dimensional, kids, are the converging lines. That's what makes this look three-dimensional. That's what's happening here, guys. That's what I'm doing. That's what's happening here, guys. That's exactly what's happening here, guys. It's nothing so much fancy or nothing so much complex. But again, so how do I know it's a window? Well, you can always start drawing things outside of the window. You can always start drawing things outside of the window, guys. Or, for the time being, you can just draw those curtains, guys. Okay, now, as I mentioned earlier, if this is the living room, well then let's put a nice sized television over here on the wall, and it can be a big screen, a big flat screen, guys, okay? So I don't have a huge television myself, guys, but I suppose if I could choose to have one, I might say okay, but then again, no, because I probably spend too much time watching television. But anyways, guys, so here's our window on that wall. Here's our light fixture, okay, at the top. And kind of like a light panel here. And if you guys, I'm pretty sure you've seen, like in our classroom in the art room, it has these things called the suspended ceiling, which are basically panels, guys. They're basically the panels that hang onto the ceiling, guys. Okay, and you want to add a little further, you can then add some color, make it look more like a light. But then here, of course, we have the beginning of our television. So that's how we draw something that looks like the inside of a room. Oh, but before I say, okay, kids, I want to see this. I just want you to know that A, some of you are doing a spectacular job, and B, some of you just need to rework your drawings. You just need to focus a little bit more. And let's put a nice little rug down here, okay, guys? Okay? Let's just put a nice little rug down here. And why does this rug appear larger? Why does it appear larger on this part, or this side of the rug? Well, because we're using 1-point perspective. And what makes something look three-dimensional, again, guys, it's not the horizontal lines. It's not the vertical lines. What makes something look three-dimensional, guys, are the converging lines. That's what makes it look three-dimensional, guys. Now, before I go, I just want to very quickly say, okay, guys, so wait a minute. You have a really nice television, Mr. Ruiz, but you got no couch. So very quickly, guys, I'm just going to draw a line from my vanishing point, and I just want to establish where the bottom of the couch would be and how big it would be, guys, okay? So that's super important. And let me go on ahead and draw one of the couch legs. And then this one, you have to be careful because you want it to, of course, look as if you wonder, how can I put it? You have to know where to stop. Okay, again, where do I stop, Mr. Royce? How do I know this? Well, you're using these lines that you draw, your converging lines, tell you when to stop. For example, here's the bottom of our couch. Okay, now I want to go on ahead and make my couch look comfortable. Excuse me, guys. So I know how big this part of the couch has to be. Now, why do I know that, guys? Because I'm using my converging lines. That's how I know where the couch is at. So here's the side of the couch. Okay, guys? And then, of course, the couch runs upward, the back of the couch. And what am I doing now, guys? Well, I need to go back to my vanishing point and draw the top of the couch. The top of the couch, guys, okay? The top of the couch. And hopefully, guys, we end up with something that looks like pretty. Comfortable couch, guys. So it can get cluttered, guys. Don't get me wrong. This won't be easy, but you guys got this. So Alexander, Julian, Michelle, keep going. The rest of you guys, focus on shapes. So A, what do we do? What's happening here? We're focusing on 1 point perspective. A, horizon. B, vanishing point. C, converging lines. Guys, look, this is just a square, but if we add those converging lines, then it makes it look like a cube. And you can take it a step further. You can then make it look like a box. So that's 1 point perspective, guys. Again, let's go back to the beginning. Horizon line, vanishing point, and converging lines, guys. That's what I need to see. So upload some beautiful images, or should I say images of your beautiful drawings for me, guys, okay? And keep up the good work. For those of you that have been contacting me and letting me know you're ready to go, like Alexander. And I hope Julian, I haven't heard from Julian Montes. He's one of my best students, so I hope that he's hanging in there. And Udi, just because you don't see me or because you were in the enrichment program, that doesn't mean that I don't want to see your work. No way, buddy. Show me what you got. So guys, this is where we're at. So again, horizon line, vanishing point, and converging lines. Remember, guys, that's what makes something look three-dimensional. This is just a triangle. But if we use the horizon and the vanishing point, then we make it look three-dimensional, guys. Okay, guys, talk later, and I'll upload. So next time, we'll focus on this actual building, or this image, rather, that I uploaded. Okay, guys, be safe. Hang in there. And I hope you like my little mock-up of this living room of mine. Be safe, kids. I'll talk to you later.